In a world where fame often creates distance, Jin of BTS has managed to bridge the gap between celebrity and humanity simply through one underrated virtue: kindness. It's not performative, not flashy, and definitely not for show. It's the quiet, consistent type that makes people feel safe, loved, even, without needing grand declarations. And that, perhaps more than his record-breaking songs or dazzling visuals, is Jin's most powerful weapon. He's the kind of person who thanks the catering staff after a long rehearsal. The kind of artist who worries when ARMY stands in the cold for too long outside a venue. Jin doesn't wear his kindness like a badge. He wears it like skin, natural, unshakable, and part of everything he does. He's not trying to prove anything. He just is that good. This sincerity spills into every fan interaction. Whether he's joking with fans online, offering comfort in a heartfelt message, or simply bowing a little deeper during encore stages, Jin radiates a warmth that feels rare in the fast-paced world of global stardom. He doesn't pretend to be perfect. He just strives to be present, for his members, for his fans, for himself. It's no wonder so many people around the world feel an inexplicable connection to him. There's something disarming about someone who could so easily play the untouchable superstar role, but chooses instead to walk beside you. Jin doesn't raise himself above others. He lifts others up, sometimes with a laugh, sometimes with a song, always with care. More than just an idol, Jin is living proof that being kind doesn't make you weak. It makes you unforgettable. And in a world that so often mistakes loudness for strength, Jin's quiet generosity is the kind of revolution that reminds us what truly matters. The world already has enough stars. What it needs more of are hearts like his. And perhaps what makes Jin's kindness even more powerful is that it's never conditional. He's not just kind when the cameras are rolling or when the crowd is cheering. It shows up in the in-between moments, the times no one sees. Like when he helps a staff member carry equipment off stage. Or when he stays after an event just to make sure no one feels forgotten. These are the moments that never trend, never go viral, but they say everything about who he truly is. His bandmates have often joked about his dad energy, but behind that humor lies something deeply real. Jin is the emotional backbone of BTS. He takes care of people, sometimes without them even realizing it. He cracks a joke when tension gets heavy. He fills awkward silences with his signature chaos. He listens, even when no one is speaking. That kind of emotional intelligence, empathy, really isn't just rare. It's essential. ARMY feels this too. That's why fan projects for Jin are so filled with warmth and sincerity. It's not just admiration, it's mutual affection. Fans don't love Jin just because he's beautiful or talented, though those don't hurt. They love him because he loves them back. And not in a PR-friendly, I love my fans type of way. In a real, often hilarious, sometimes painfully honest kind of way. He once told a fan not to skip meals. Another time, he joked about eating well because ARMY needed him alive. Even in humor, he's thinking about your well-being. There's a reason why Jin is called worldwide handsome, but what many fans have come to realize is that his handsomeness has never been limited to his face. It lives in his actions, in his heart, and in the way he makes people feel seen. Maybe the real reason Jin stands out in this world of flashing lights and fleeting fame is that he never needed a spotlight to shine. He just needed a reason to care, and ARMY gave him that. And in return, he gave them something far more lasting than music. He gave them a reminder that being kind, being humble, and being genuinely good still matters. Maybe now more than ever. In many ways, Jin's presence in BTS feels like the gravity that holds the universe together. Not the loudest, not the flashiest, but quietly powerful in ways words often fail to capture. When things go wrong, he's the one who offers comfort without conditions. When things go right, he's the first to deflect praise to others. And when things get overwhelming, he reminds both fans and his fellow members that it's okay to slow down, breathe, and laugh a little. That kind of presence isn't taught. It's cultivated through years of choosing compassion, again and again. His recent return from military service only amplified this. Instead of basking in the glory of his comeback, Jin's first move was to show humility, to bow deeply, to thank ARMY endlessly, and to ask, genuinely, how they were doing. After months of being away, his biggest concern wasn't attention. It was connection. That's Jin. Always flipping the script. Always putting people first. Even within the whirlwind that is BTS, the stadium tours, the global headlines, the record-smashing achievements, Jin never let the noise drown out the small things. And it's in the small things where you truly see someone's character. The way he adjusts his tone when talking to a younger staff member. The way he steps aside so another member can shine. The way he makes jokes at his own expense so others don't feel self-conscious. These moments aren't written into fan service. They're just who he is, and that's what makes his kindness feel so revolutionary. It's not performative. It's not strategic. It's not a brand. It's him. Jin isn't trying to be perfect, he's trying to be kind. And ironically, that's what makes him feel perfect in a world that's often anything but. The truth is, kindness is rarely glamorous. It doesn't trend like scandals. It doesn't get splashed across headlines. But it endures. And that's why Jin endures too. Years from now, when the playlists shift and the world moves on to new obsessions, people will still remember how Jin made them feel. Not because he was a superstar, but because he was a safe place in the chaos. A reminder that softness isn't weakness, it's strength in its purest form. Jin has often joked about being just a guy who sings, downplaying his impact. But anyone who's ever been comforted by his words, inspired by his grace, or made to laugh when they needed it most, knows better. Jin isn't just anything. He's a constellation of warmth in a sky full of noise. And in a world so desperate for light, that kind of soul is rare. Oh yes, Jin may be worldwide handsome. But long after the cameras stop flashing, it's his worldwide heart that people will remember. Because when fame fades and the stages go dark, kindness remains. And if kindness is a superpower, then Jin is nothing short of a hero, capeless, humble, and absolutely unforgettable. And perhaps what makes Jin's legacy even more profound is that he never asked for it. He didn't set out to be a role model. He never forced inspiration. He simply lived with intention, with compassion, and let the rest follow naturally. That kind of authenticity can't be faked. It can't be packaged. It's the kind of truth that resonates quietly but deeply, like a melody that lingers long after the song ends. Even those who aren't part of ARMY, or who stumble across BTS for the first time, often find themselves drawn to Jin, not just because he's funny or charismatic, though he's certainly both, but because there's a gentleness in him that feels increasingly rare in the spotlight. He doesn't weaponize his influence. He doesn't chase relevance. He just shows up again and again for the people he loves, with full sincerity and an open heart. It's no coincidence that the members of BTS often describe him as someone they rely on, someone who makes things feel okay, even when they're not. Jin doesn't solve every problem, but he reminds everyone that they don't have to face it alone. In the darkest hours, on the hardest days, he's the kind of person who would sit with you in silence, offering comfort not through advice, but through presence. That's a gift not many possess. And Jin gives it freely, without expectation. And the K-pop industry, where polished images and rigorous control often dominate, Jin's openness feels like a rebellion. He talks about his struggles with brutal honesty. He shows vulnerability. He lets fans see him without the mask. And in doing so, he gives others permission to be human too.
To cry, to feel, to grow.
He doesn't teach with lectures. He teaches by example, by loving deeply, laughing loudly, and always choosing empathy over ego. That's why his impact stretches beyond music. He's not just someone who entertains, he's someone who heals. For countless fans navigating mental health struggles, loneliness, or just the general chaos of life, Jin has become a source of quiet strength. A reminder that they matter, that they're not alone, that someone, somewhere, cares enough to ask how they're doing and actually mean it. Even now, as he steps into new phases of his life and career, that essence hasn't changed. Jin continues to show up, not as a perfect idol, but as a profoundly kind human being. He doesn't need to reinvent himself. He doesn't need to chase trends.
He simply needs to be.
And that is more than enough. In the end, Jin's story isn't just about stardom. It's about substance. It's about proving that being good to people still matters, even in an industry that often forgets. It's about choosing softness in a world that hardens you. It's about reminding us that even in the biggest arenas, the smallest gestures can echo the loudest. If kindness is a superpower, and if love, in all its quiet and clumsy forms, is still the most radical thing we can offer, then Jin isn't just part of BTS. He's part of a much larger legacy. One that says, you can be successful and still be kind. You can be famous and still be humble. You can be adored by millions and still choose to care, one person at a time. And that might just be the most beautiful thing of all.